Hey, what's up, guys? It's Will back once again for another fight card prediction for UFC 271. Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker 2. First of all, I just wanted to say I really apologise for last week. Household was all ill, could not find the time to just make my predictions, so apologies for that. But I'm glad to be back here for another stellar pay-per-view, which is headlined by obviously the rematch and then a co-main event of hometown hero Derrick Lewis against Tai Tuivasa. So yeah, really fun card. I think there's some good fights throughout. You've obviously got a load of fighters from Izzy's City Kickboxing team. Him obviously defending the belt. You've got this newcomer Blood Diamond, Carlos Ulberg's on there. So he's brought a few of his guys over. And like I say, he's looking to defend his belt in the rematch here against Robert Whittaker, which I think this fight's going to be completely different from the first one. I'd be very surprised, honestly, if this is like a shutout like the first fight was. I thought there was a lot of things going into that fight. Now that we know that Robert was kind of dealing with the pressure of being a champion, the fact that Izzy was streaking at that point, has Izzy maybe kind of leveled off a little bit since then, but maybe Izzy might just have the number of a Robert Whittaker. We'll wait and see. I'll talk about that fight once we get to it. But overall, I think it is a pretty decent card. I'll kind of recap my kind of betting from last week's card. I had 4 bets. I had a 1 unit shot on Danilo Marquez, which turned out to be an absolutely terrible bet when you seen what Almeida did to him. I had Tresean Gore via decision at plus 300, which the fight was going the way I kind of thought it was going to go in the second round there, but obviously Brian Battle showed he made a few adjustments in that third round, did more, and won himself a decision there. I had a parlay of Maximov and Soriano to hit round 2 with Rakhmonov, which cashed pretty easily for me. And the main event, I had Sean Strickland to win in rounds 4, 5, or by decision, and that hit at plus 140. So overall, I thought it was a pretty decent night. I got myself back into the green to start off the year. I've been kind of not betting all that much for the first few events, but I managed to get into the green and make a start for this one. I already have 1 bet for this card, which I'll mention once I'm going throughout the card here. But yeah, looking forward to getting back on the horse here and getting some predictions out. Throw a like on the video if you can. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe if you can. And a couple of side notes. This Saturday, from now on, before pay-per-views, I might even do it for all cards. I'm going to be doing like coming on YouTube for an hour, talking about the fights, giving you my final plays, whether I've changed my mind in any picks. And also at the end of the month, I'm going to be appearing on the Die Hard MMA podcast with my man Clint. We've talked about this for a long time. Really looking forward to talking some fights. I think it's for the pay-per-view, Covington and Masvidal. So just wanted to get out there. Die Hard MMA podcast. Really looking forward to chopping up some fights and speaking with Clint. Really thoroughly looking forward to it. So let's get into the fight card. First and foremost, I'm going to bring up Tapology here or Wikipedia, one of the two. I'll go with Wikipedia for this one. Starting off in the welterweight division with Jeremiah Wells, against Mike Mathetha, Blood Diamond, Mike Blood Diamond. I don't know what they're going to call him in this UFC card, whether it's going to be his original name or the name that has been given to him from the guys at City Kickboxing. And I sat around and watched this last night, and I thought to myself when I was watching Blood Diamond, this guy might have a chance to win against Jeremiah Wells. I think this could be a decent matchup for him. And you watch, there's not a hell of a lot. There's a lot of kickboxing fights, obviously, because he went over to China, did a lot of kickboxing over there. He's only 3-0 as a pro. And in his wins, he's obviously not faced great kind of opposition of kind of any capacity. One via rear naked choke in one of his fights. The fight that you will see on Eternal I think Eternal 50 on UFC Fight Pass. I can't remember the name of the guy he was against. Let me bring that up. It's a name that I remember kind of laughing at once I heard it was Gillies. Dimps Gillies. I was like, that's a bit of a weird name. But I watched that fight last night. And I mean, the guy's dynamic, very flowy, lets his hands kind of lay low, likes to throw kicks. He has vicious kicks. If you watch his kickboxing fights, he can throw kicks all over the place, to the leg, to the body, and especially up high. He's got some serious knockout power where he can hit you with one of those high kicks and you can be in kind of la-la land a little bit. When you look at him a little bit in that fight as well, he did get controlled against the cage, against the guy who was like, I think he was 4-1 or 3-1 at that point. So he did get controlled a little bit, but he did sometimes stay a little bit stationary in the cage, but he would throw at the body, would attack with knees. He's great with stepping knees, obviously from the kickboxing background, will use elbows, but he can be pushed up there a little bit. And when you're making that move up to the UFC, especially Wales, who's a big, stocky guy, that could be one of the spots where Wales, as a guy that's had probably, 10 plus fights, could look to kind of really take this fight and put him against the cage and look to use that kind of root bra strength that he's got and get the fight to the ground, where I think he would have a bit of a decision, a bit of an advantage down there, with his grappling. I think he'd be the stronger grappler. I think he trains with stronger grapplers. I mean, I think he comes from the camp with Pat Sabatini, with Sean Brady. So he's getting good looks. Or Daniel Gracie. I can't remember what belt he was, but I remember reading it. So he's getting good looks at the where he is, where he trains and so on. And I felt when I was watching those boxing fights, I was getting a little bit like a fan. I was like, oh, this guy's going to do really well. And I think here potentially he could catch Jeremiah Wales. I just think that the overall experience, I think if I'm Wales, I could see that I can get this guy at the ground, maybe control him, especially get maybe takedowns off the cage, which Wales has done in the past. I have seen that coming through in the CWFC. But he's also lost a decision there where he kind of outgunned a little bit against De Jesus. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Jeremiah Wales. But I do have a funny feeling. This is one I'm not super confident in, because it would not surprise me if Blood Diamond comes out here, lands a big shot, and maybe hurts Jeremiah Wales and puts him out. But for me, I'm going to go with Jeremiah Wales to kind of win via maybe even a submission, but I'm probably going to end up going decision. Bantamweight division, we've got Douglas De Silva de Andrade against Sergey Morozov. Another one where I think the dog is a little bit live, because Morozov's going to look to kind of pin and take this fight to the ground. That's kind of really what his game is kind of made of, is getting the fight to the ground, having long spots of kind of top time, and ultimately just kind of riding out kind of decisions on that. A 17-4 record has Morozov against the guy in De Silva de Andrade with like a 27-4 record as well. So he's had a lot of fights and a lot of good fights in the UFC. We've seen in the fight against Khalid Taha, Morozov just wanted to use that grappling, and he did so effectively by getting takedowns. I think he got 4 or 5, maybe even more than that, takedowns, and had large spots where he controlled that fight. And then in his first fight, he kind of had that reversed on him, because he faced Umar Nurmagomedov, who is one of the brighter prospects we have through the entire UFC, in my opinion, where he got taken down. So you can see that he can be taken down and controlled, but he did do well to kind of get back to his feet. These Kazakhstani, the fighters from Kazakhstan, I should say, they're really coming through. There's a lot more guys coming as well. If you watch some of the local kind of Russian, Middle Eastern, European promotions, these guys from Kazakhstan are coming through. And like I say, there's more on the way, let me tell you. So it's whether Douglas De Silva can keep this on the feet and land the kind of telling strikes that's going to turn this around. Now, if he can do that and not be held up against the cage and be taken down, I think he's got the advantage, the KO power advantage. We've seen that last time out where he knocked out Perello pretty simply in that first round there. But Perello, maybe a guy that really shouldn't all be in the kind of UFC. But he's kind of one of these guys that kind of trades wins and losses. He lost to Lerone Murphy, who I actually think is a really good fighter. He got a takedown that fight, also got taken down. We have seen him taken down in the past. Peter Yan got him down. He's the best guy in the division. Rob Font took him down. I want to say that Tuhugov back in the day got him down as well. So that is where Morozov is obviously going to look. He's not going to want to stand here, throw in the pocket with Douglas De Silva de Andrade. I see this being a close split decision fight, and I should really probably lean with De Andrade in that spot. But I just think the more telling parts of this fight is going to be the Morozov kind of. I think he will get him down. I don't think he will keep De Silva, Andrade down there for long parts of this fight. So that's kind of where I'm leaning on. Not super confident. I'm going to go Sergey Morozov to win via maybe a 29-28 decision there. Middleweight division, we get AJ Dobson against Jakub Malkoun. Another one where I thought, right, it's the dog live. And I know that his money, I think that the number on Dobson was a lot higher, I went to say a week or two ago. And the money has been coming in Jakub Malkoun. And I thought to myself, right, is he a viable dog here? And I kind of do think that Malkoun could potentially be live in this spot, but I think he needs to get into a spot where he is on the ground and on top, or in a position where he's doing the offensive kind of grappling, or just being in the better offensive position. And that's where I kind of struggle maybe seeing. I don't see him doing it for long spots in this fight. Dobson, we've seen him, I think he's only 6-0 as a pro, comes out of I think it's the Hammer top team, I think with Mark, the Hammer Coleman, Matt Brown. And we've seen his last fight there, he against Arhaga, I think it's how you pronounce it, where won in the first round, got a takedown, got a knockdown, got a submission. If you do something like that in Dana White's show, you're going to go in there and you're going to look decent, and you're going to get yourself a contract. Now, I'm not super impressed by kind of what I see with Dobson. I'm not. I think that he is beatable here. I think Malkoun, that was a really good rebound after his UFC debut, where he came in there and got smashed pretty quickly, but then he came out there and beat a very dangerous guy in Abdul Razak Al Hassan there, where he came in and just kind of spotted him up, got away from the power, got takedowns, and that's not easy to do against Al Hassan. Now, I think Al Hassan was going through some tough times. That was a lean spell with the whole allegations outside the cage. Coming back, he did look rusty. And then Malkoun just kind of used that to his advantage and got himself a really nice win against a very, very dangerous guy. I just don't see Malkoun for long spots of this fight getting to an advantageous position. If he can be the one that's kind of leading the dance, is on top and maybe putting the fight in his position, I think he can win. But I just don't see. I think that Dobson's going to outstrike him. I think he's going to stop the takedowns that come from Malkoun. I think he could potentially get takedowns. I can maybe see Malkoun want to maybe flop to his back a little bit, get Dobson to be on top of him. And I mean, Dobson's only 6-0, so he might make the kind of cardinal mistake of going into the guard of Malkoun, maybe getting swept, and then being under Malkoun a little bit. So I'm going to go Dobson. Not super confident. I think that I wouldn't really want to bet this fight in any capacity after I really thought, right, it's Malkoun. I would have liked a better number. I think he's plus 125. If I could have got maybe plus 150, the plus 175 mark, maybe then it becomes a shot on someone like a Jakub Malkoun, but not for me in this spot. I'm going to go with AJ Dobson. I think he wins via decision. Where are we now? Moving on, light heavyweight division, we've got the big boys, Carlos Ulberg against Fabio Cherant. I like Carlos Ulberg a lot in this fight. I think this is a good spot for him, and for the reason is I'm not sold on Cherant being a UFC kind of caliber fighter. There's a few things that I like about Cherant, but there's a lot of things I really, really don't like. Losing to Alexa Kemar, like getting knocked out with a flying knee, getting subbed by Alonzo Menefield, who's not particularly known for his submission offense. He's been knocked down, like Big Thick Willie knocked him out in the first round last time out. He is very explosive, very long, and he is very dangerous in a lot of spots there. I like his lead left uppercut. I think that's a really nice shot, but I think he has deficiencies with his defense. Now, Carlos Ulberg, he's got less fights than what Cherant has, and I don't want to say kind of blew his kind of shot last time out against Kennedy Nzechukwu, because he was winning that fight. He was trying to finish that fight. But as I was watching it, I thought that he's leaving Kennedy opportunities to counter him with big strikes. And then that's what happened. He got caught with a big shot, got absolutely nailed on the chin. by a couple of shots and then eventually hit the mat and then was taken out. I like Carlos in this one. I've parlayed him up with another guy further on this card. I think he's won a couple of fights up. He's the bigger guy, longer reach. I think he's more varied with his striking. I think he's got a little bit more better defense. Just if you hurt the guy, pick your shots. Don't go balls to the wall. Throw loads and loads of output like he did in that first fight, where he landed a load of strikes. Also, he kind of get hit with some shots, but I think this is a good bounce back spot for him against a guy who I don't think we'll see in the UFC after this weekend here. So I've got Carlos Ulberg. I've got him to win. I'm actually going to pick via first round knockout in that one there. Alexander Hernandez against Renato Moicano is next up in the lightweight division. I'm seeing some love out there for Alexander Hernandez. I've never really had much love for Alex Hernandez, even though I do think he has talent. I do think that he's made the best decision of his career to move to Denver, go in there to a better camp that's not really in Texas. That was just all the attention was flustered onto him and put onto him, where he goes to a legit coach, I think in Mark Montoya. And we've seen spots there where I think that he is, I don't want to say, like, I've had people message me regarding this fight and saying the guy's live. I think he is initially for the first 5 minutes, and the fact that Moicano, you can get his chin a little bit, and I think that's where people are leaning. Now, if this gets past 5 minutes and Moicano is still around, I think that Moicano is more than enough to kind of take this guy out in the last. I mean, he could take the guy out in the first round as well. I'm not saying that he couldn't. I think that Hernandez has been taken down in the past, and he has got some deceptive big power that he showed since the minute he came into the UFC when he knocked out Beneil Dariush. But I think the first 5 minutes is going to be telling this fight. Now, if I'm Moicano, I think there is opportunities to get this guy to the ground. I think if you get this guy to the ground, you can absolutely stop him. If I'm Moicano, I don't want to stand there, go strike for strike with someone like Alexander Hernandez. I think that would just be a bad move in his part, because I don't think his chin is the greatest. He has been dropped now. He's been dropped by better, more credentialed fighters than what Alexander Hernandez is. I just think there's a big gap if he gets this guy to the ground. I think his jiu-jitsu is far more impressive. It's kind of underrated, but very impressive. Hernandez, I think he might do enough initially, but I think once he starts to fade kind of throughout the fight, then I do believe that he can be taken out and he can be submitted. I think that Moicano has the skill to submit him. So take the fight to the part of kind of least resistance, take him down, use that jiu-jitsu, kind of wear on him, and just wait for the opportunity, because I do believe that if he can get the fight there, he can submit this guy. So for me, I'm going to take Renato Moicano. I'm going to take him via stoppage, and I'm going to take him via submission. And also the fact that Hernandez's wins, I don't want to discredit them at all, but they're Gritzmacher, he looked terrible in that fight, and maybe that shows in Hernandez when he's made that step up to like your better caliber opposition, your Dobers and your Moises. He's lost those fights. I don't want to say pretty comprehensively, but he's lost them. I mean, he got knocked out by Drew Dober, got a little bit dominated by Moises, and then his wins are Gritzmacher, Mike Breeden, who I think came in very short notice, maybe the fight the week before the fight. So they're fights you should expect someone like Hernandez to win. I like the overall game of Moicano. I think that he can do a little bit of everything. I think he's probably a little bit better everywhere. I am a little bit worried about the chin, and potentially this could be a bet where I make on Moicano depending if the line comes down a little bit. He's coming off 2 wins. He's coming off a win, against Jai Herbert. Before that, he got blasted by Rafael Fiziev. I've got him to win this one. I've got him via submission. I think that he gets it done in this spot here, and he moves himself on with another win. Where are we at? Mana Martinez against Ronnie Lawrence. Like this fight, I think now I will say this. I was going about Carlos Ulberg, and I've got a parlay. I've got him with Ronnie Lawrence. Now, I do think the line is maybe, I think it should be a little bit tighter. I got him at minus 275, but I was looking at other parlay pieces on this card, and they were a little bit too chalky for my liking. But I think that Lawrence has the kind of opportunity here to look far more bigger number than it is. He could be a -4, -500. He could look that in this spot here. If he kind of does what he does with his takedowns. I mean, he rifled off so many takedowns in that fight against. I've completely forgotten who he fought in his last fight. Let me see. Let me bring that up. Sorry, guys. Cachero. Vince Cachero, yeah, and getting the ground and pound finish in round number 3. He rifled off some really nice grappling. He goes 100%. I think he's got some fairly decent striking, honestly. I think that's where Martinez will have the advantage. I think he's a more slicker, smoother striker. And to be fair to Martinez, he's coming off a pretty good win himself in a kind of terrible situation, fighting after his head coach kind of passed away, and beating Guido Canetti there in a split decision. Now, there was some sketch spots in that fight there, but both guys have kind of mutual wins over Jose Johnson. He's got some good striking. I think he trains with Adrian Yanez, and you can see that if you go back in his regional days, when he fought Rivera and Turcios, which is a great one to have in your record now, considering he won the Ultimate Fighter. The guy's got some massive power, and if he lands on you clean, then he can put you out in the first round. We've seen that with his finishes on the regional scene, that if he lands big power shots, you will go out. And he has an opportunity to do that here. For me, I just like Ronnie Lawrence's, just the way the guy comes forward, it's in your face, will tire you out. Like I say, if he doesn't get blasted in the first round, I think he could run through Martinez in the later part of this fight. I think he can get takedowns, rinse, repeat. This guy's going to be one of my kind of core plays in DraftKings, I think, this week. I'll manage to win myself, I think 7 tickets to the kind of big game. So I'll be throwing all them in there, and I'll probably be pretty high on Lawrence in a lot of this spots. But I like Ronnie Lawrence. Like I say, I've got a parlay with him and Carlos Ulberg. I think it was -105, plus 105. That parlay is. I've got a couple of units on that. I like that play as my first kind of play of the week there. But Ronnie Lawrence, I think he can get him out of there. Again, a third round sprinkle might be another spot here once he tires out Martinez, gets him in the position where maybe Martinez is just not moving on the ground. Ref's looking in, he's hitting him with ground and pound, could get a submission finish. But for me, I like Lawrence in this spot. I think he walks away with the win there. So Ronnie Lawrence I'm going to go a third round TKO. William Knight against Maxim Grishin. I like William Knight in this one. I'm seeing some love out there as well for Maxim Grishin. I had 2 people, I'm not going to mention your names, that have mentioned Maxim Grishin as a play that they're very, very confident in. And I could kind of see why a little bit with these two. I think that Grishin's got so much experience, like 40 fights, like 4 times the amount of fights nearly that William Knight has. Bigger guy, longer reach, doesn't overly get hit with many big shots. Now, William Knight doesn't really land at a kind of high pace, but when he lands, he can absolutely put your lights out. And we've seen that in spots where last time out against Cherant, I shouldn't say last time out, the fight before that against Cherant, knocked him out with a massive shot. And at any point he could land that shot, and you always have to be cognitive of that power throughout the entire fight here. So I've kind of been thinking about, right, where is Grishin going to take this fight? Is he going to try and keep him at distance, try and maybe keep this in the middle of the cage? Because I think that William Knight can push you back. I think he can push you against the cage. He's a strong dude. We've seen Tybura muscle in some takedowns in that fight against Grishin. Antigulov got a quick fire takedown in that fight, but didn't really do a hell of a lot with it. So William Knight could potentially come out here, get inside the kind of reach advantage, and potentially maybe push this fight against the cage. And we have seen him use takedowns in the past. We've seen it against Kamer, where I think he got a couple of inside trip takedowns. His Dana White Contender Series fight, I remember, he got takedowns in that one as well. And I think as a dog play, I think he's a decent dog play. And like I say, it's weird because I've seen a few people on the Grishin side, and I'm like, if I had to bet this fight, and it is something I'm looking at, I think I would like to be in the Knight side because I think he's got the power to shut Grishin's lights off at any minute. I think he's got the strength there where he could potentially keep him against the cage, maybe reap some takedowns there. But Grishin has got a lot of experience, and that counts for something against guys that have maybe got 10 to 12 fights. But when you look at William Knight, I mean, he's got how many fights now in the Dana White, including the Dana White Contender Series, maybe 6. So he's been in front of the big lights now. First time on a pay-per-view, so that's a big step up here, leading off the prelims. I'm going to go with William Knight via knockout. I think that he catches Grishin at some part of this fight. Now, I am a little bit unsure because he could start to kind of really gas out in the kind of mid part to late part of this fight with all the weight that the guy carries, just the muscle mass. But I'm going to go with Thick Willie in this one. I think that he's got an opportunity to get another knockout, get another stoppage. I think his line is a little bit, I can't remember what the line was earlier on when I looked, but I think he's a decent dog play this week. If you're looking for a dog, he might not be the worst one you have in the card, but he is going to be my pick there. I think that he comes out with a knockout win. So Knight for the W there. Alex Perez against Matt Schnell. This fight's been due to happen, I think, 2 or 3 times now. I've always been on the Perez side. I'm not changing anything that I thought beforehand when the fight got pulled. I can't remember what exactly happened last time. Was it Schnell got pulled because I think weight cut issues? I think that he made the weight but didn't look great afterwards and they pulled him from the fight. So when I look at this skill for skill, I think that Alex Perez is the better fighter. Alex Perez is the better fighter. I think that he's the better wrestler. I think he's got really underrated boxing. I love his low kicks. If he was to land 3 to 5 of those, I think he could shut down the leg of Matt Schnell. What I do like about Schnell is the fact that he's long, establishes a good jab, and it's dangerous at points as well. He's got dangerous jiu-jitsu. If you put your neck in the wrong spot, he can get a guillotine, he can get a rear naked choke, he can stop you with that. But Perez has got that good wrestling background as well where he can control him. Just when I think about this fight, I can see Perez being more dominant in the feet, hurting Schnell there, but I can also see him wrestling his way to a decision, wrestling his way to a stoppage at some part of this fight. I would be kind of surprised if Matt Schnell come out here and beat Alex Perez. I think for me, I think he's in the top 5 of that division after your Morenos, your Davisons, Kai Kara France, Askarov. I think he kind of rounds off that top 5 there, Pantoja. So he's kind of in that 5 or 6 there that I put as the top 6 in that division. Schnell, I think he's one of those guys that will be a leverage kind of top 15 guy, always will be a guy for contenders coming up to face. But I think Alex Perez should have his number here. I think that he can win this matchup. So I've got Perez to win there. Roxanne Modaferri in her last ever MMA fight. She's been around since 2003, so props to that lady for sticking out the longevity of her career. And she's facing the young upstart here in the kind of hybrid Scott, Aussie, and Casey O'Neill, who has been a money train since she went to the UFC for me. I think I bet another 3 times in different areas of straight play, inside the distance plays, and the number's been great. I really like what I see from Casey O'Neill, but this is a jump up against Roxanne here. Like I said, it's a last fight. She'll want to go out all guns blazing. I've been reading some of Roxanne Modaferri's blog a little bit, and I think she had a tough year last year. She's kind of got engaged. I think this new hubby of hers or the new partner has kind of opened her eyes to a lot of things, and whether it's for the good or the bad, I don't know. I think she's taken a step back in the gym with classes and so on to try and focus herself on fights. But she says in her blog she's looking forward to just not fighting anymore. And to me, when you got that against someone like Casey O'Neill, who, like I say, she's fought 3 times in the UFC in the first year there. She's back out here early 2022, looked impressive. I think she's looked gradually better throughout her career. And the girl's resilient. She's relentless. And she comes forward and she looks to finish the fight. I mean, most of her wins are via stoppage. Her 3 wins in the UFC are all stoppages. And like I say, she's made that jump up every time. I really liked her in the Dobson fight. I thought she had the beatings of Sheena Dobson there, got her in the middle part of the fight, stopped her. Procopio, I thought, was a really tough fight. They were matching her up because Procopio had jiu-jitsu background, where Casey O'Neill really likes to take the fight to the ground, where I thought, well, I mean, she got taken down in that fight there, managed to work her way back into it, and then managed to find a submission late on in that third round. And then Antonina wasn't the great start in that fight, got taken down, controlled a little bit, but once she, in the kind of late part of that first round, started to establish that she was the girl with the more physical strength, could push her back, could just grind on her a little bit. When it went into the second round, she got down and she just got into that mount position and started raining shots. She's very, very good and very, very solid when she gets to fight the ground. I've still got a lot of question marks about her stand-up. Head's high, hands are low, rushes in a little bit too much. Now, these women don't really carry all that much kind of one-punch power, but she kind of throws caution to the wind, comes forward, looks to push against the cage to get takedowns. And once she gets it there, if she gets you in a dominant position, you're not getting out, and she will go until the ref is pulling you off. But this is the type of sport that Roxanne Modaferri kind of lives for, if we're being honest. She's busted the bubble of some prospects coming through. Macy Barber got caught in that fight there, where she came through as an absolutely humongous underdog. And she fights hard in every fight. She gets outskilled in a lot of her fights. I mean, that happened numerous times against Araujo, Talio Santos, where she was just getting taken down at will. And she might do enough here to maybe stick around. Wouldn't surprise me for the 15 minutes, but I think that Casey is so relentless with her overall game that I think that if she gets her down for long parts of these fights, say like 4 minutes of a round, I think she can find a way to positions where she could get a submission and or get a TKO victory. So I wanted to initially parlay Casey O'Neill with Carlos Ulberg, and then I saw the line, it was minus 350, and I was just like, nah, this is not the sport I really want to get involved in. Now, inside the distances might be something I look at for Casey O'Neill, like I have done in the past. I got good numbers in that in the past. I think she rolls here, but it's a tough fight. I mean, and Roxanne Whittaker out with a win in her last ever fight. So I've got King Casey O'Neill to continue, move to 4-0 in the UFC and look to get that next step up caliber opposition. I will say that Roxanne has brought in Lauren Murphy, a tough grappler herself, a strong girl to kind of help her here. So I'm interested to see if that kind of works out a little bit, but I am on the Casey O'Neill side here in that one. Andrei Arlovsky against Jared Vanderaa. I mean, Arlovsky's getting on. 43, I think he is now. So he's been around the UFC a long ass time. He's been like 20 plus years. He's probably been in and around the UFC. Of course, he fought for other promotions. And he finds a way to just kind of win fights, does Arlovsky. And this is the type of fight that you kind of would expect him to win. He's coming off decision. Like, he's not a guy that really knocks you out anymore. The last time we've seen him knock out anybody would have been Travis Lawrence? Travis Lawrence, one thing. Travis Brown, away back in 2015. I mean, so he's not had a knockout finish in nearly 7 years. All of his wins since then: Albini, Struve, Rothwell, Lins, Boza, Sherman, Felipe. All decision wins there. So if you're looking at props there, making it to round 2, maybe even in round 3, something you can maybe parlay up. They're spots that I do like personally, is heavyweight fights to hit round 2. Maybe the over 1.5 you could add into parlays, or depending on what the number could be. When he makes that step up to your Sakai's, your Aspinalls, Jairzinho, who are guys who've moved into the top 10 of that division, then he struggles a little bit. Vanderaa is a guy that I think he could be a little bit live here, for the simple reason that he comes forward, he looks to bring the fight to you. His 2 losses in the UFC are to Sergey Spivak and Romanov, guys I think will be entrenched in the top 10 for many years to come. And he got his win over Justin Tafa and Harry Hunsucker back in the Dana White Contender Series. He'll look to get takedowns. He'll look to try and get ground and pound. I just don't see it happening. And not unless he hits that magical beard of Andrei Arlovsky, then it's just a beautiful beard. It's like beard envy in my part when I see Andrei Arlovsky's beard, but not unless he touches that chin. I just don't see it happening. So I kind of see Andrei coming out here and just doing what he does, keeping him at distance, landing more, stopping takedowns if Andrade gets in on the legs or on the hips or whatever it may be. So, Andrei Arlovski via decision is probably going to be the play there for me. Going into the chat and just say hello to you guys. What's up here? Let's see what's going on. Irish brother, welcome back, Will. Hope all is well. All is well now, thankfully. The family was all ill last week, so it's the reason I wasn't around. Jason C, what's up, my man? Jack Attack, what's up, buddy? I don't know what that means. Call me touch, but whatever it is. I'm kind of with you. If Moicano doesn't get KO'd, he should still in Hernandez. That's my thoughts. You like that parlay? I hope it comes through from it. It's the first play that I made of the week. Man, it sucks he barely beat Oman Guido. I can't disagree with there. Why you put Ulberg in with Lawrence instead of O'Neill? I kind of explained that there. I thought that Ulberg, he could run through this in the first round. And not unless Cherant lands a big kind of high tariff shot, then I think that he wins that fight. O'Neill was the play with Lawrence, but I managed to really lay back on that. Big Will from Scotland, Noise Audio. What's happening, my man? Spinning shit. There, O'Neill. What's this? O'Neill should be at least a bigger favourite as Barber probably has. She should. I just don't really want any part of that now. Tyler, what's up, my man? Hope you're well. And O'Neill for all the I am brew. Let's go with the I am brew, guys. If you've not hit the thumbs up, guys, it'd be much appreciated if you could do that. So yeah, let's move on to the main card. This is the fight we're starting off with here that I was like, last night, kids went to bed, missus went to bed, threw on UFC Fight Pass, and decided to watch all the fights in Nasrat Haqparast because I thought to myself, right, this is the type of fight that would not surprise me if it's a super close striking decision where it goes to like a split decision type fight, which Bobby Green can be known for. He can be known for losing really close matchups, which I think he's been a little bit unlucky in some spots. But I thought, right, I'm going to watch Haqparast, and man, I am so... There is a talent there with that kid, but he's just not showing it, and he's been in the UFC for coming on 5 years, and he, like, considering he's been at camps like TriStar, King's MMA, he's really not progressed to where I thought he would really be. The guy's obviously a very good, slick, thorough striker, very, very good, can handle his own on there in striking type of matchups. I think in this matchup, I think Bobby Green can get takedowns. I don't think he can keep him there, but he's got something different to his game. And Bobby Green lands a lot of strikes himself. He's a very good striker. But I've just been disappointed with Haqparast personally. I think that he's shown spots where he's looked phenomenal. The Diakese fight was one of them there where he lit him up with all type of shots in that one, leg kicks, and so on. And then the finish of Joaquim Silva, I thought that was a really good display from him. And then there's just other times where he's not looked all that good. I don't want to say not look good, but to be fair, when you look at his losses, Held was on short notice. Drew Dober was a ranked guy in that lightweight division, and Hooker's a ranked guy in both featherweight and lightweight, in my opinion. And he got taken down, he got beat up a little bit on the strike. He just couldn't get inside the length there. Plus, that was a hard kind of fight week. His mother passed away weeks beforehand. He was going between Vegas. He could barely get into the country as well. I think there was spots like there was talks of that as well. I just think that Bobby's going to... see, this is one that I know that if Haqparast comes through and wins, I'm going to be so pissed because I have the feeling this is going to be like a split decision type fight, and Bobby can be in the opposite, or like not even like he can be in split decision fights, but he can be in fights like that where he could potentially, it should go to a split, and he's maybe lost the kind of decision on the side there. But I mean, he came out, beat Ali Akinta. Ali Akinta he didn't even want to be there. There's a reason that he retired after that fight. He came in and got his paycheck, didn't really fight once he kind of got hurt, really started to cover up. Bobby took him out there, and he's not known for knocking out anybody. Fought great in the third round against Fiziev, landed a lot of strikes. That's a fight where he thought he could have got the decision. I thought the more crisper, cleaner strike and landed in Fiziev, and he got the win that he should have there. The Moises one was another kind of close fight where Bobby always lands more than you. Always. It doesn't matter who's against, whether it's Clay Guida, whether it's Fanata, Alan Patrick, who's not really known as a striker, he'll try and take you down. But even he got takedowns in that fight. He got takedowns in the Moises fight. So the guy's got that in his back pocket if he decides to use it. If this is an all-out striking affair, I think Bobby lands more. I think the harder shots can come from the Hapras side. But I think the ace in the back pocket is takedowns, and I think that's what will ultimately kind of win him this fight here. So I'm going to go Bobby Green to win this fight via decision, start off the pay-per-view that moves into an absolute baller fight. This is one I think is going to be just guaranteed fireworks in the bantamweight division. We've got Kyler Phillips against Marcelo Rojo. Rojo fights out Argentina. I think he's from the Entram gym in Tijuana, Mexico. And I mean, he's a fun fighter to watch. He's not the most, he's not your greatest fighter you're ever going to see in the UFC, but he does bring it. He will look to make an exciting fight. Kyler Phillips, I think, is coming off that fight where I've seen people saying it was a draw. I thought it was a draw. Paiva got the nod in it. I thought he was a little bit unlucky in that one. But he also brings a lot of really unorthodox striking, good clean footwork, good clean shots, can use different variant shots, hooks, go with the body, low kicks. He's just a very solid fighter, this Kyler Phillips. And I think there's a good matchup to really get him back into the win column here against Rojo. I mean, Rojo, he can take a lot of damage, but eventually that catches up with him, and it did in that late third round against Charles Jourdain, who I actually really like watching Jourdain. He's a guy that occasionally, if I'm just want to watch a fight, I'll put on his fights because he's so exciting. If he was just a little bit kind of more defensively aware, that I think he could be like a better fighter, maybe a top 10 guy, but I just don't think he'll ever be like that. But he will give you exciting fights. And he's lost before that was John Castaneda, who was seen at the weekend. I'm kicking myself for not betting Castaneda. There's a couple of guys at last weekend that I kind of stupidly did not bet. Maximov was one that I should have bet. And Castaneda was another one, and they were like plus 150, plus 175 in spots. And I didn't do it, so I was a bit pissed off that I never bet those guys there. I like Kyler Phillips here. I just think he's a little bit too better. A little bit too good for Marcelo Rojo, and he gets back on the win column here. I mean, his losses are to Paiva, good, decent fighter, could ultimately got a draw out of that one. 10-8 the guy in the first round. And then his other loss was Victor Henry. And we've seen what he did in his UFC debut when he ran through, I don't want to say ran through, but he beat Raoni Barcelos. I think there's a good kind of comeback fight for him here. So I'll go Kyler Phillips. I've actually got him via a knockout in the second round there. So, yeah. Jared Cannonier against Blonde Brunson. Derek Brunson here is obviously the kind of backup if anything happens with the fighters in the main event. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen. Interesting fight. I like Derek Brunson in this fight. That's who I'm leaning with. I think he's realised now that how I win fights in the UFC, you have to evolve your game at all times if you want to be relevant in the top 10, top 5 of the division. And Brunson tried to do that. He's always had that herky-jerky kind of striking style. He has got big power. He is a little bit awkward, so he throws from weird angles. He throws from the southpaw stance as well. So he's a little bit different than a lot of guys that you'll see, but he can be picked apart by really elite strikers. You've seen that Adesanya fight where he just really got picked apart relentlessly in that fight before getting taken out. But he's realised that where he wins his fights ultimately is through his wrestling, and it's always been that. I always harp on back to the Yoel Romero fight where he was taken down. Yoel Romero, he had the takedowns in that fight, but then got caught by Yoel, who I think shit his pants in that fight as well, if I remember right, and got taken out in the third round. Then he started to kind of go and he started to kind of fall in love with his hands. He knocked out Herman, Alve, Jucao Carneiro. I think Uriah Hall might have been another one of his victims there as well. Daniel Kelly. But then he kind of lost his couple of fights to Adesanya and Jacare. And then he realised, right, I need to get back to the bread and butter, and that is the grappling. And he's came through his big dog odds in a couple of his fights now. The Shabazian fight, where he was getting numerous takedowns. The Holland fight, numerous takedowns. This is where he wins this fight. If he can get takedowns, I think he can beat Jared Cannonier, and that's why I think he wins this fight, because I think he gets takedowns. Now, Cannonier's a guy, I don't think he's the easiest guy in the world to take down. Jack Hermansson got him down, but after the first one, didn't have any luck. And I can't remember how many attempts Jack had there, but couldn't get him down. David Branch got him down numerous times, couldn't keep him there. If this guy starts to establish himself in the feet, he's a clean, slick striker himself. But where he's lost fights in the past is to getting taken down. He did get outstruck by Robert Whittaker. I thought that was a really good performance from Whittaker. Cannonier is a tough guy, and he's a guy in that division where he is very, very relevant. But I think now, I think he's closing in on 40 years of age. I mean, he looks great for his age, don't get me wrong, but I want to say Brunson's probably close to a similar age as well, actually. But for me, it's if Brunson can get takedowns. If he gets takedowns in this fight here, he wins the fight. I think that he'll have spots there. I think if he gets more than one like Hermansson did, Cannonier made the adjustments there where he got taken down the first time. Wasn't all for all that long a time either. But after that, he shut down everything. I think Brunson is going to have more success with the takedowns and the grappling in this fight, and that's ultimately why I'm picking him. Betting him, another one here. I'm not sure. I've missed the best line I can get, but I still like the line that he's at. I think he's plus 140, I want to say he is over here in the UK. So that is something I'm looking at. Maybe have to get in, because I think more of these videos that come out, there might be a few more in Brunson. The line might start to come down a little bit. So I'm going to go Derek Brunson via a decision in that one there. That's who I like. Co-main event of the night, Derrick Lewis against Tai Tuivasa. Came into this one thinking, you know what, I actually kind of like Tai Tuivasa. And then I'm just like, the more I've kind of looked into a little bit and looked into his wins recently and who he's beaten, I'm thinking this is a massive jump, in my opinion, to who he is now facing. Derrick Lewis will always be around the top of that division. I don't think he'll ever get to the echelon of the division. But, I mean, he beat Struve, Tai beat Struve, Harry Hunsucker. Struve was already on his way out. Hunsucker shouldn't really be in the UFC. Caught Greg Hardy, which is always good seeing Greg Hardy getting put down there, knocked him out. And then after a kind of close first round against Augusto Sakai, let the hands go, and that was a brutal knockout. And then he delivered him a kind of epic shoey on there. Now he's making, I think, a jump into the top 5 of that division. Now, I don't think this is the fight that he can't win. I think more on the Lewis side. I am a little bit hesitant because we've seen that Lewis fighting at home in Houston against Cyril Gane. I mean, he kind of looked like a deer in headlights a little bit and really was not invested in that fight. I think the pressure got to him. I think he will want to rebound with a big win here in H-Town. He's coming off a big rebound win over Chris Daukaus, where a lot of people were on Daukaus. He cashes a good underdog there. But I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see how this plays out, because Derrick's not one that really is the one that kind of pushes the pace. Now, Ty's going to come forward. I see that he's moved. He's completely moved out of the Australian. That he's moved to the team in Dubai. I watched the video on that. Really nice looking gym, actually, and all his family's kind of moved out there as well. I would love to see Tai Tuivasa win here. I think that some new blood up the top of that division, guys with personality. Not saying that Lewis has not got personality, because he really has. But I've always really liked Tai Tuivasa. I don't know how you can't really like Tai Tuivasa. But for me, I think here, I like Derrick Lewis to win. It might be a bit of a boring decision. But I don't know. I'm going to go with Derrick Lewis. I think initially it's going to be a pick. I was thinking about making a play on Tai Tuivasa, but I think that I don't want to say it's smart money. I don't even think you should bet this fight, honestly. But my pick's going to be Derrick Lewis in this one. So, aye. Okay, then we're on at the main event. Main event time. Rematch. Last style bender against the Reaper. Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker. A lot of people are really writing off Robert Whittaker, and I'll put my hands up. I am a big, big Robert Whittaker fan. I've loved watching him come through the smashes, tough series, to then going through the welterweight division, and then eventually making that move up to 185, where he's entrenched himself as one of the best champions that the division's had, against another guy who is one of the greatest middleweight champions we've had in that division, a guy who's pretty flawless, apart from that one loss to Jan Blachowicz when he went to try and get that 205 strap, and Israel Adesanya. You can talk about this first fight here that these guys had, and to be honest with you, it wasn't really even close between them. Like I said, I do think there was a lot of things going into that fight for Robert Whittaker. I think there's a lot of pressure, and I think that's something I take for granted a little bit, is having that belt and having the pressure, especially fighting at home in front of a stadium crowd, like Robert did. I think there was injuries coming off that. I think it was a rectal problem that he had to have surgery for. There was other aspects there where he just wasn't himself. And Israel at that time was as focused as he ever has been, was wanting that undisputed belt. And he came out there and he sniped Robert Whittaker. I hated the way that Robert Whittaker blitzed into a striker like Adesanya. You can't do that. Like, there's no way you can do that for long spots of fights and expect to beat this guy, because he's so pinpoint, and the accuracy that he has leads to just accurate shots on the button, on the chin. You don't see the shots coming, and that's ultimately what happened. Robert has to use the all-around game here. He has to use his striking again to get takedowns. If he can't get takedowns, I just don't see him winning the fight in a stand-up affair. But I think he can make the rounds close enough that if he can be in the fight with his striking to then get positions of control with takedowns, then I think that, I mean, Izzy can be taken down. Blachowicz got him. Blachowicz is a big guy. Vettori got him. But he does show some decent tendencies, some decent defense with his takedowns, will get back to his feet, but he can be taken down, and that's what Robert has to do here. He's the better guy with his jiu-jitsu, so he has to use that to his advantage. He just has to be relevant in the striking and get the respect of Adesanya. If he doesn't get the respect, then I think Izzy's going to run away with the decision here. I think he's going to mark him up. I think that Robert Whittaker's got a very big opportunity to win this fight. I really do. I'm picking him to win this fight now. Before people saying, Whittaker's going to lose. Big fan. This is kind of heart over head. It kind of pretty clearly tells you to go with Israel Adesanya. But these are my predictions. These are my thoughts on how I think the fight can go. I think this fight is ultimately going to be a lot closer than the 2 rounds that he got blasted out in the first time. I think that Robert's going to win rounds. I think he is going to get takedowns, and I think he is going to win a very, very close fight. So I've got Robert Whittaker to win a decision. I think it could be one of these split decision type fights. Now, I think if he was to take some of the aspects of maybe a Gastelum fight, what he did right in that fight, landed some shots on Adesanya, put some damage on him. Just don't be silly with those blitzes, because if you do that, you're asking to get hit with shots that you don't see coming, and they're the ones that hurt the most. So I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker for the win here. I'm going to take him via decision. Like I say, a heart over head kind of pick. Will I bet it? I need to see where the line goes, but if I get plus 300 in Robert Whittaker, I mean, I think that might be worth a sprinkle for me. But I could also see spots where he just might have the number of Robert Whittaker here. So my pick is going to be Robert Whittaker. I'm going to take an underdog shot there on Bobby Knuckles. Hopefully he gets the belt back. But this could be a fight that he can ultimately get outgunned depending on what his fight game plan is going to be. But pick's going to be Robert Whittaker. So, guys, that's my picks for this event here. I'll kind of go into the chat a little bit there before I piss off out here. Franz there, hi Will, good to catch you live. Hope you're well. I'm good. If Ty can get a strap in the heavyweight division, will be peaking. That's true. It was a kind of close in the first until Rob got dropped. Papa Placid Penis, love that name. Whittaker is going to have to change his tendency to throw an overhand. Yeah, that's true. He's going to have to be more crisp with his shots. He's thrown it every fight he's been in since Izzy, and it's the reason he got caught. It's always really been the style with Robert Whittaker, though, isn't it? He always kind of throws that looping shot instead of the crisp straight down the pipe shots. I think that's always going to be there. If he does that, I think it'll be closer than most people think. Like I said, I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think as well. So, guys, that's my predictions. Like I said, I'm going to be back on Saturday night, probably about 9 o'clock UK time, just kind of talking through the card, my final bets. If any of my kind of positions have changed as fight weeks went on, I've kind of looked into it a little bit more. But I'll put my picks across the bottom here for the next minute or so, just so I can give you, some people ask for that in the comments, so have a look there. I'll try and post them in the comments. I will have my times and everything ready for this up this evening. But until next week, guys, we're back. What are we back with next week? Is it Fiziev against Dos Anjos? Good fight. Until then, guys, if you're still in here, throw a like in the video. All the very, very best. And take care and enjoy UFC 271 when it comes around this weekend. Peace.